Hey everybody, it's Zeph. I'm back doing another video tutorial. This one's going to be kind of a video walkthrough of one of my tracks here. And this is good, if you want to see kind of how I work, how I structure my songs and stuff. And also I'm going to go through a lot of the techniques that I use and how they fit into the song as I go through. So this is just a good all-around video to kind of pick up a feel for some advanced techniques and some of the ways that they work in a song. So you can see I've got my emulator loaded up here and I'm just running LSDJ. And this is for my song Glitch from my new album with Danimal Cannon called Parallel Processing. And this is one of the solo tracks from the album that I did myself here, and I managed to cram it all into one LSDJ. So you can see the whole song. Yeah. So it's going to be pretty chill. I'm just going to kind of go through. I haven't really planned anything. I'm just going to go through and play a little bit and then kind of maybe tear it apart and see what's inside. So yeah, here's how it starts. Okay, I apologize to my my video software running at the same time, as the emulator tends to slow it down a little bit and make it a little glitchy, but if you want to hear the full song straight through, then just go check it out on the Parallel Processing album there, and you can hear it in full. But yeah, so we'll dive in and kind of see what we have going on here. So this is in the first pulse channel here, and just a pretty simple intro riff. So you can see I'm using a lot of E commands here, and also some vibrato, and then it fades out with a pitch bend. And you can hear it's also switching panning. You'll hear that a lot throughout the rest of the song. I probably won't mention it every time, but I use a lot of these automated tables, and most of the time I'll have panning switches and that sort of thing, and that's just to give it a good stereo field. And also I usually do some W commands here too, just to basically mess with the what do you say, the wave width of each note, just kind of give it some variety. So that's what's going on in that channel there. Okay, here I've got a really simple melody happening. But you can hear the octave is actually switching around, even though here it stays constant. That's because in each of these I'm running a table, and it jumps octaves. So it starts off on the root note, next note it jumps up an octave, next note it's standard, and then the next note it jumps down an octave, and just a little bit of vibrato to kind of give it that fuzz and that little bit of distortion on there. And then I'm also running W commands to switch in between. And I mentioned a little bit of this in my last video tutorial too, but here you get to see it in the actual song. And then in each command, just to make sure it loops. So this one's pretty simple. And one thing I like to do as well is this one's running on a 4-step variation, and this side is running on a 3-step variation, so it actually goes out of sync with itself, which keeps it from getting boring as well. You don't get one repeating pattern, it actually changes up as it goes. And then on the wave channel here for the intro, I'm actually running just a ridiculous amount of E commands to get that kind of pulsing feel to it. Let's here mute this channel here. There we go. Yep, so that's what's going on there, and this is probably going to be a bit of a longer video too here. Noise channel, I don't think there's much happening. Oh, here, M commands. I usually use the noise channel for M commands just because it's nice and simple. And you can see it's fading in from one pattern to the next. So when you listen to the song, it starts off really quiet at an M11, as quiet as it goes, and then instead of just doing a software fade in For the song, I'm just using M commands to fade it in so that it'll actually work on the original hardware too without, you know, scrubbing your volume wheel or whatever. And then it just comes in with some basic noise percussion. Okay, and here you can, and the panning is switching too. I'm using that same automation trick. So this A11 command, that's running a kind of gate trick. I do this one a lot too. I also mentioned this in the last video, and it causes it to stutter like that. And the O commands don't actually affect the note; they just cut it in and out. And I'm just running that on a basic little noisy instrument here. So that's what's going on there. Let's skip down a little bit. Okay, so my poor emulator's having a heart attack here, but here you can hear, this is actually the main riff, and this is what I named the song after. I usually start up most of my songs with just a basic wave channel riff or progression, and then build up from there. This is the one that I started this song with, so you can hear that's pretty fun. It's just a basic noise channel, or sorry, wave channel sound. And then I'm running some crazy pitch bends on it. Yeah, nothing too complicated. It sounds pretty cool if you just mess around with pitch bends and stuff. And then I have a kind of noise tom going on. And so I'm just running, yeah, I call it my pulse kick there, but I'm basically using it as a tom. It starts off with a quick little octave spike and then a pitch bend down, and then it just cuts off. Pretty simple. And then I add on another layer here. Yeah. Once again, emulator's pretty choppy about it, but these are running a table here where I'm running the O commands to have it cut in and out, and then each note also starts off with a vibrato command. And if you do such high speed values in vibrato, you get that sort of distortion effect. So if I take, let's say I take this off, you should be able to hear just the distortion. Yeah, so that's the way that works, and that cuts in and out. With a pitch bend on the end. And I'm also doing octave changes in the transpose column here. Oh, and also throughout the rest of the video, if you see just like little fiddly bits left over here, usually when I'm working on a song, I'll have one or two different variations of a phrase that I want to try out, and sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't, sometimes they just get left over here. But anything that's separated doesn't have any effect on the song, just so you know. Okay, so you can hear it drops in pretty hard here. And I'm kind of, I like to focus on my wave channel because I think you can get a lot of really cool sounds out of it, and it's really unique. So I do, a lot of the drive from my songs come from my wave channel here. And I'll usually start off with like a kick pattern, whether it's the 4 on the floor kick that you got going on here, or I mix it up from time to time, and then I'll build the bass around it. So here, so pretty deep, deep sounding bass in, and I'm actually changing instruments as I go. Okay, and I'm just doing octave switches for kind of like that side chain. And then here I'm running panning commands on my kicks. And this is a trick I love to use too. This is a reverse kick, basically. So I took the basic kick formula. You know, you start off high, and then you pitch bend down to get your kick sound. And I reversed it so that you start off low at like a C2, and then it bends up. So fun for kind of those little scratchy bits where it fades in and out. And then I also just panned it left and right. That's what's going on there. And then I bumped up the noise channel a little bit. Okay, so instead of punching in all of the notes, I just use R commands in this instance. And then it changes speed by changing the R commands. So it starts off really quick, and then it cuts down a little bit. Kind of gives it a cool effect. And that snare I actually stole off the Danimal Cannon. I really like it. So let's see what else we got going on. So when you're working with just one LSDJ, of course you need to think about your channel economy a fair amount, because you've only got, you know, the 3 channels that can actually play a melody on them. So what I did here is I'll usually layer, you know, I'll have an ARP going, and then it'll kind of cut in and out because you don't really notice in the mix. So I have some melody scattered in between there. But for these ARPs here, I'm just running a table, and it runs through the volume column. So it'll fade all the way in, fade all the way out, and I explain how to do that in my other video too. And it's just, what is it? It looks like a 7th chord here. Nothing too complicated. And then I'd kind of chop it up using these C commands, so you still get like the chord feel, but you can add a little bit of melody in there too. Okay, and this is a technique I talk about in the advanced tricks video too. It's just a distorted instrument with a K command on it, and then I'm running an R command to have it re-trigger. Get a cool effect. And then more distortion on there. And that's just a pitch bend using the L commands. This is all pretty basic stuff. It's just, you know, you layer it all together and you get something kind of cool sounding. What else we got? Oh, this is kind of cool. What do I have going on here? Okay, so that's just a basic distorted instrument. I'm using the V command for distortion, probably in a table there. And then these O commands gate the output. Okay, and then anything if you see A10 or A11, that's these commands here, just running at different speeds here. So more gating. So yeah, basically this is all gating, and then I've got a pitch bend down and a more distortion at the end here. And with a little vibrato. So this part was fun too. I just basically speed it up and do a kick in, and then for these, it doesn't sound too good on the emulator, but it's basically kicks with R3 commands, so I just didn't feel like changing my groove so I could fit more notes in, so I'm playing each of these notes twice per line, because it re-triggers every 3 ticks, and there's 6 ticks per line. So basically, as you can see, it's speeding up with the kicks. Here it's going 1 every line, here it's going 2 kicks every line. I mean, you could go to 3 a line if you wanted, but it was already glitching as it is. So. Okay, here's some fun stuff too. Um, just kind of a growl effect. I actually made that out of the Detroit sample in the Ghetto sound pack, and I turned the speed down to half. So there's your basic Detroit one. Sorry about that. Detroit, yeah, and then if you set it down to half, you get some cool stuff going on. And slightly less tasteful sample, but it actually works really good when you glitch it up, and it's illegible anyway. You got the pitch bend on there, and that's running at half speed too, and it actually works out pretty good. Okay, what else do we have here? Let's dig in. I think this is about the same as before. So this is still just that kind of tom kick I have going on here, and I just got some volume fading effects and some K commands, chopping it up. So you can hear there I'm really using the reverse kick. And then vibrato. And these are just really glitchy wave instruments too that's kind of fun to mess around with. I don't draw my own as much as I used to, but you can usually get what you want out of the synth there. Okay, and I just keep the bass going. And then I layer on some longer notes here that kind of draw out, and I'm using the E command to fade them in. And so these are layered, looks like one is a third up from the other. And a good tip too, if you're using envelopes like this, usually, unless you want to re-trigger again, I just leave it blank, and then it's a little smoother sound, especially when you're running some sort of command on the note. So here, we're running this table, so it's actually just kind of changing vibrato as it goes, increasing in vibrato, and then cycling through instruments, or sorry, pulse widths. And that's just kind of looping over. Yeah, and I got bored with that, so I added a little flare in there. Does that go anywhere else? Not really, okay. So that's that. Okay, so we got a lead coming in here. Oh, other one. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's see what we're doing here. Okay, so I'm using that same lead sound. I think I just bumped it up an octave or so, and with some L commands for fancy pitch bending in between. And then this is just the gate that chops it. And so I don't know, I like to mess around with P commands, bend up and down, and do some fancy stuff. And I think I have the pitch bend, the vibrato speed set to low, and that just gives you a little more control for these slow bends. So if you want like a nice controlled slow bend like this, you're going to want to change your speed to low. And then you can get that kind of cool effect. Where does it continue? Okay, so here we've got, it starts off with a strong vibrato, which then cuts out when you hit the first vibrato command here. Okay, and then C commands to just kind of give it some flair. Nothing too special really going on there. Okay, here's the second half to the lead. So, yeah, if you haven't picked it up by now, I like commands. I use them a lot. And that's kind of just how I get my flair going on, rather than just lots of notes. I like to add some texture too. So here we got pitch bend, L commands to kind of run from one note to the next, and then one thing I've picked up on too is if you use L commands without a note, it kind of just glitches out, and sometimes you get lucky and get a really cool effect. So it pitch bends down really quick with the L command, and then I pick it back up with this other one here. Okay. So I'm running, these are fifths on the C command, just to give it some texture. And again, I run through lots of octaves. And this note just has a quick pickup. So what I'm doing is I'm running a 12.5% into the 50% for the pulse width, and then I'm just catching it and holding it there. So when you hit this loop, it just loops at 3 forever, and then it won't go back and redo that little jump, which is good for lead sounds and stuff if you just want to have a little pickup, and then have it stay there. And this is just all C octave commands. Give it some texture. Okay, next set, pretty much the same thing. Okay, I like this part here. I start off with this, which I believe is, yeah, just the distorted gating command here. And I just let it run, and then I take the gating off with the A command here, and then do a pitch bend down with a vibrato. And if you do a nice slow vibrato with a really high depth value, you get that wobble, which is kind of fun. It's just K commands to chop it up. Okay, and this sounds a lot smoother on the Game Boy too. I guess what you see is what you get basically for this part. Lots of L commands to pitch bend real quick between notes, and then K commands are chopping it up, and I throw in the odd pitch bend basically just randomly for fun. And you get that choppy effect because I'm doing triplets with the bass, the kick drum, and then you get the notes I follow directly after. So, I mean, ideally I would play the bass drum and the note at the same time, but since I only have one wave channel, and I really didn't feel like doing a whole second LSDJ for this song, just so I could use my kick drums right. And this gives it a really cool jumpy feel too that you wouldn't get if, you know, you could do it at the same time. And I'm just chopping it off with the K command. Yep. Okay, this is just a pretty chill part. I actually, I wrote this part so that if I ever played it live, you know, you could get the crowd going and yelling along with it. I think that'd be fun. I haven't had a chance to try it out yet. It's just a really slow wave channel patch that I whipped up. A lot of my tracks, I'll actually use the same instruments and then change the speed of it. So you can hear, I'll let this one run and change the speed up a little. So a lot of times I'll have the same instrument just in a couple different speeds running at the same time. Okay, let's dive into the wave channel here. Here I'm running an F command. All that's doing is basically, I wanted the speed and sorry, where are we? Okay, I wanted, yeah, these settings from this instrument 16, which I had set up as a sine wave, but I wanted it to start using the next instrument's wave frames, and so that's why it's at 15, is it's actually using the next instrument over's wave frames, but it's using the settings from the 16 one. I didn't plan that intentionally, I just basically was fooling around with the F command, and I like the way this one sounded. So, I mean, you can do that, you can mess around. And I just wanted a specific feel for each of these notes, so I just set it to start on a specific frame. So it's actually starting part of the way into the sequence. And then these are just really quick, high pitch bends. Okay, and here, this is a cool effect I like to use too, is I started a note, okay, and it actually started on the kick drum, and then I changed that kick drum into an actual instrument sound, which you won't hear unless it runs in sequence here, with an F command to change the frame, and then it plays that instrument all the way through, changes the volume, and then does pitch bends all the way through it with high speed legato commands here. So I like to run wave channels through the paces while pitch bending them, and then as long as you don't put an instrument in the instrument command, it'll keep going. Okay, so that's that pattern. Here we got a bit of a breakdown. It slows down a little bit, and then I think I'm just running, oh, what am I doing here? Okay, so I'm running a simple wave command here, or sorry, wave instrument, and then I'm just kind of messing. It's not set to manual mode, but I'm still manually changing the wave frames. So let's see what speed I have it set in here. 4. Okay. So what it's doing is it's actually playing from this frame. It'll go ahead a frame, and then I pull it back a frame. Oh no, this is pushing forward. Sorry. Yeah, basically it's just iterating through lots of frames very quickly. So you get samples from lots of different instruments as it goes. And then within the actual note here, I've got it automated to change the panning and also the octave. So that's where you get that kind of panned back and forth, quiet in the background glitchiness. And you can hear it changes even though it's playing the exact same thing. That's because the automate commands loop differently and they keep going. So even though I only wrote one pattern, it sounds different every time that it plays through. So you can save space that way, which is good because I ran out of phrases for this song. So. Then I just add in some noise channel. Very simple. Yep. Okay, couple instruments here. I know this video is going on a little long, but I'll wrap it up quick here. So this just fades from one note to the next really smoothly. So what it does is it starts fading to the next note without actually re-triggering the envelope. So the envelope is fading in with an E2F here, and so it starts to fade to the next note, and then it restarts the envelope. So it gets to the note, and then it cuts back down to a low volume, which gives it that cool effect. I guess probably one of my biggest pieces of advice to new LSDJ people is just to, I mean, you should notice that you don't always need to have the instrument in the instrument column, and if you don't put it in there, it won't re-trigger, and you can still change notes. Something to take note of. And I'm running that lead from earlier on there too. Simple little bass line looping over top. Ah, here we go. Okay, so this is where it starts to pick up again. I kind of wanted to build to a big finish for the song, so I took this pattern from earlier and then cloned it and actually added in just these arpeggios here with the C commands. So it's the exact same as in the beginning of the song where you hear this line, except I added in those arpeggios to give it a little extra. Okay, and you can hear these little blips going on just for accents. I think I have them running in this channel too. Yeah, so they all build on top of each other, and then I've also got the kit going here. And so they all build up and make this big sound. Yep. Oh, and on my noise channel stuff, I tend to alternate octaves, just to change notes a little bit. Give it a bit of humanization so it's not the same hi-hat playing every single time. And it just kind of fades out with the the bass coming back in with those frame switches. And then I just throw in these little instruments here for a little bit of flair. What else? Winding down here. So, you can tell I'm a fan of chaotic lines here, so sometimes I just throw a bunch of glitches in and see what comes out on the other side, and if it turns out I'll use it. These are all switching all over the place. They're both running their own automated envelopes. Really, there's no way to plan this sort of thing. You just keep punching in commands till you get something that sounds good. But I thought it layered well with everything else, so yeah, that's Glitch, basically. So thanks for tuning in. Check out that track from my album with Danimal Cannon, and if you download the album, Parallel Processing, all of the save files are included, so you can actually go through and follow along with what I went through, and you can check it out for yourself on your own Game Boy. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Keep on chipping. That album releases January 15th. Thanks.